If you're someone who wants to build iOS application and considering what they should do, how they should code, and since you are from a non-web developer background, what you should definitely do. So in this video, I will talk about the SwiftUI basics which you should know before even building your iOS application. And if you understand this, then building an iOS application becomes a lot more easier. I'm Samik and I've been learning iOS by documenting my journey, and from day one onwards I'm documenting my journey, how I learn, what are my findings, I share with you, I share from my own use cases, and it has been going amazing. And these are the few basics which if someone had told me earlier would have been easier for me to get started with iOS and SwiftUI. So let's get into the video. So you can see this is basics of SwiftUI for non-coders, of course. And the first concept, and that is views. So everything in SwiftUI is view. And what exactly are views? So if you know React, then it is nothing but components. But if you are a non-coder, I'm assuming views are nothing but whatever thing you see in this particular screen in this browser, and consider this is an application, and this log button, this hand sign, this particular selection tool, and consider these as views, and this whole canvas is also a view, and whatever I'm writing on this, again it is a view inside that particular canvas. So consider whatever you see visually, those are views. So as the name suggests, views are those. So what are the different views? For example, text is there. So for example, if there is something, if I write hello here, so maybe if I do this one, hello, in this particular application, so consider this is in my iOS application, and if I do hello SwiftUI and it appears hello this text box, so this is again a view. Then circle, this matches the circle. Button, tap me. So tap me is a text on that particular button, and you can tap that button, and in this particular curly braces, this like bracket, you actually provide some of the functions what this button should do when it is getting tabbed. So these are views, and these are defined by the SwiftUI team from the Apple team. Just you need to learn how when to use which view. So for example, these all are buttons again. So if I press this one, for example, if I press this one, it actually triggers this one. So we are writing a function behind the scenes. So you can ask AI to generate that particular views function according to your need. So you can say when this button is tapped, this function should happen, and I need a button after this particular text. So this will use views behind the scene, and you will talk in that same particular language what AI understands. Now we have view modifiers. So for example, this circle. So if you see this circle was blank, it has just a border. But for example, you want to fill it with blue color. You want some padding around the circle. You want a foreground color that is white, and you can do that using view modifiers. So again, if Apple has given views, it has given view modifiers also. So you use the modifiers to give margin padding and everything. So of course, if you know margin padding beforehand, you will understand it better. If you don't know, you need to learn margin and padding as well. But yes, this is the broad spectrum which you need to understand, that view modifiers is also a thing which you need to learn about SwiftUI. Now stacks. So it is similar to what we do in React and the frameworks, is that you create HStack, VStack, and ZStack. So what you see from top to bottom is VStack. What you see in horizontal, like left to right, that is HStack, and in different layers, that is ZStack. And now what exactly? So you can see this hello circle button. This were all given in this particular format. So this was put. So this particular item was put inside a VStack. So this was put inside a VStack. VStack had this particular code, and inside that, that's how it rendered. So if I had done HStack, it would have rendered side by side like this one. So this is how it works, and this is what is VStack, HStack, and ZStack. And if I make something appear on top of each other, like for example this one, so this is again ZStack. This appears one by one on top of each other. Now for different use cases, you can use different layers, and you can see how this is done. And now something very important, and that is state. Now whenever you are working with views, so for example the text, this is hello SwiftUI, you want to change it to maybe your name hello world, or your name or my name, something like that. And if you want to change text on maybe on button tab or something like that, you need to store that text information in a view, in a state, and that is we actually call local memory of each view. So whatever, for example, this count is a variable, and variable stores value data, and this stores 0 when it gets initialized, like when the app gets rendered, when the app is live, this count is 0. But in the VStack we have text and a button. When I like press the increment button, it makes the count +1 and it updates the text. So this is a simple counter application, and this is very basic, and this is how it works. So again, you have VStack. So this is how it will look when it renders. So this is my iPhone, and again I have count, which is 0, which stays in the memory. I don't have to worry about that. Then I have a body. This is my body, which is again the iPhone screen. And then I have a VStack. So this is my VStack. So VStack is not visible, so you cannot see the VStack, but yes, this is present behind the scene. You can give again border and all. So this is the count. So count is 0 initially. Then I have the counter button, that is increment button. So this is a button, and it says increment. And let me just make this little bit smaller. And okay, so let me just make this smaller for you. I cannot play with this one. Okay, let me just do this one, and let me just do here. Hope you get the point. So when I press this increment button, so when I tap this button, it actually, when I tap this button, it updates the counter and it makes it 1. So how it is doing it without making any copy and all? So it is just updating this variable, and we are calling this variable like this one. So it is actually count like this one. This is how it will be rendered. Again, I need to fix this one. So this is how it will be rendered in the VStack, and this is how we are updating it to count 1. So when I tap the increment button, I can make. So this is how it getting rendered. Now if I add another button, that is decrement, and if I write count -1 equals to 1, so it will decrease the count. So it will make 0 to -1, and if it is already 1, it will make it 0. So this is how it updates. But the problem with this particular view is that it is local. Like when we talk about in programming language, it is local. Like this view only has this access, like this count variable. If I create another view, for example, below this iPhone screen, maybe this is the iPhone screen, long iPhone screen can be there with scroll you can do it, and this is another view, right? And you want to access this same count variable in this particular view, you cannot do it, and that is a problem. And to fix that problem, we have something called environment object. So let's get into that. Now of course, if you build something inside this view, you can access this view. But if you want to build another view, for example, you are building multi-tab, multi-navigation application, and from home screen you want to pass the data to profile and profile to home screen, then how do you do it? So that is done through with the help of environment object. And when to use state and also you can read this, like for data that only view cares about, like whether a toggle is on or off, or form input animations, something like that. Now environment object, the broadcast system. So when you switch the theme and you see that color changes and all, so how does that work? So that works because of environment object. So this is a code, and it is very important to understand the code before you can ask AI to make changes for you via the environmental object. So you need to create a class observable object. So every view observes the object, and you need to create a variable that is a published where is dark mode false, published where username is user. So this class, whichever views call this class, will have access to this particular variables. And in your app's main view, let settings equals to user settings. So we are initializing this particular object, like we are creating this object in a variable. And your main view, whatever your main view is, you call this environment object to settings. So it will actually make a broadcast. So whenever you update your data, it will be triggered to your main view, and your main view will pass it to the inner child. So you can see a deep child view, no matter how deep. Environment object where settings. So I'm calling the where settings, that is user settings. And I'm like, you can see this one. This was let settings equals to user settings, and I'm just calling this settings equals to user settings. I'm just making the where settings as user settings, and with where body some view, and if setting is dark mode, so I'm just directly referencing this particular dark mode. So if it is dark mode, I will change the color. If it is light mode, I will change the color. So that is how it works. And you can see like a notification system that goes to all views. Instead of passing data down through every single view, you put a data in the environment, and any view that wants to grab it, then it can grab it. And when to use for data used by many views throughout the app: user preference, theme settings, logged in user data, global app state, or maybe payment information or something like that. So these are the few basics. Like, I was struggling with environment object and state a little bit, but yes, if you know this few basics, 5 or 6 basics, then you can build any iOS application without worrying about the technical implementation, syntax implementation, because AI can do that work. You just need to tell, like, you want this environment variable to be a environment variable, if you want that variable to be a state variable or not. So how to work, you can now talk with that particular language, and AI will understand, okay, I need to create an environment object, I need to create a state variable, something like that. And again, how to organize stacks, you will say that, for example, you want to stack on top of each other. You will ask AI to stack on top of each other. AI will understand, okay, maybe user is asking about VStack, but if you give a proper reference about, I need to implement in ZStack, then it will understand, okay, the user is asking about ZStack, so let's implement in ZStack. So this is how it works, and this is the basics of SwiftUI for non coders, which I want to talk about. And I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye.